Hello. I just found this in the garage, and I thought I would bring this up. I can get it up here. It's a box of postcards. Whole box of them. We worked at a store called Sanctuary Crystals in Alsip. For about I don't know, 12 years or so, I think we were there till they went out of business. They went out of business. Largest New Age bookstore in the South Side of Chicago. Here's a picture of some of the people that worked there. Here's the storefront. It was just a strip mall. They had the whole strip mall. They owned the whole strip mall. And it was just a huge place full of all sorts of good stuff. And in there was about 8 readers there. And in that store, they had this box of postcards. And he wanted like $2 a postcard. And that's what he's selling them for. And they were just all sorts of different things. Different artists, different photography from 1900. Here's a picture of T.E. Lawrence from Lawrence of Arabia. It's a snapshot of him. Here's a picture of just some girl. Lewis Carroll took this picture, who did Alice in Wonderland. This might have been something for that. Here we have Satchel Paige, old New York Yankees pitcher. And different art shots like this from Middle Ages, some newer art, all sorts of different stuff in here. And so it was just a bunch of postcards. Some of it's famous people. There was the Tsar of Russia's in here, and this, I don't know who this woman is, but and just all sorts of different shots. And so when they went out of business, he had these postcards there. The person who owned it at the time, they had these postcards there, and they and I told them they were going out of business, and I said, "Well, I'll give you." I said, what do you want for that box of postcards?" And she said, "What do you give me?" I said, "I'll give you $35." I had $35 in my pocket. She says, "Sold, take them." So it's like, I don't know, 300 postcards here. I got a whole box of them there. And so I still have them. But what was interesting with this is in this whole box of about 300 postcards, I have 2 of these. These 2, this is a zodiac postcard of Gemini and one of Capricorn. These are the only 2 in here. A lot of these are duplicates, these other ones. No duplicates of these 2. And that's the only postcards that have anything to do with astrology in here, are those 2 right there. So I want to, it's like, this reminds me of synchronicity and what you can do with this. The reason I say that is because Linda and I worked there for 12 years. And Linda is a Gemini. And I'm a Capricorn. So there's 2 zodiac postcards in this box. Gemini and Capricorn. And now Linda and I own this box of postcards, and we are both a Gemini and a Capricorn. So to me, that's what that calls to your attention, something like synchronicity, because there's a pattern there. There's this coincidental situation come up, and it makes me think, is there any meaning to it? And I don't think there's any meaning to it at all. It's just a coincidence. But I can interpret it in some way to give me meaning. Just like I could interpret a random tarot card in a position of a card spread to give me meaning. But if I wanted to, I could look at that and say, okay, well, Linda and I are into this psychic reading thing. Let's learn astrology. Let's become astrologers too. Or let's look into astrology more. Or what can we see about our zodiac signs that might be helpful to us in some way? And I might have found some type of a new direction or new idea. It might have been something that benefit me or us in some way, and become a good thing. And if it did become a good thing, I would look at this box of postcards and says, I got the idea because I got this box of postcards from Sanctuary Crystals, and in it was two unique cards. One is a zodiac sign of a Gemini, and one of a Capricorn, me and Linda. And so I took a look at that as a sign of some type. But I didn't do that. But you could see where your mind would start to work that way if you wanted it to. So it was a highly coincidental situation, and no reason to have it happen. It just did. And I could have easily interpreted that situation in some way to give it meaning and purpose and a direction in something I'm doing or we're doing, Linda and I, in some way that would have been significant. And if it would have panned out, I could have looked at it as a meaningful thing that was predestined or something like that. But it wasn't done that way. And but you can see where you create your own meanings. And it would all depend on how I wanted to interpret those two things. Now, if you're watching this video, you could sit there and say, okay, well, two postcards, Gemini, Capricorn. You're both Gemini and a Capricorn. You're both readers, New Age bookstore you're working at. And you can come up with interpretations, and you'll start to do that. That's just the way the mind works. Matter of fact, I might get some comments on there about that. I'm not interested in looking for any guidance about it. I never did anything with the postcards. They've been sitting in the garage here forever. And but I just think it's interesting that you could take something coincidental like that and you could interpret it in some meaningful way. You will find a way to interpret it in some meaningful way. So really the power of synchronicity is just the randomness of it. Coincidental randomness that you interpret in some way. You read it out some way, just like you read a tarot card that's randomly placed into a card spread. Random. And that's conceptually blending it to be some useful thing to you, have some meaning to you in some way. Carl Jung is the one who coined the term synchronicity. And he even said, he says, I don't know if there's anything to it. He says, but he was very interested in the paranormal. And he thought, well, maybe there is something there. And to his credit, to be interested in the paranormal is really cool. But I think that we could look at it now and say, now that we understand conceptual blending, and that's what we're doing with a tarot reading, we could also interpret our synchronicity too. All we're doing with this coincidental situation is we're interpreting it and reading it in some way in our life to fit in some way, just like we interpret a random tarot card. They have meaning. And lots of times when seeing it was just coincidentally there, we have to use our imagination. And we'll find ideas we didn't think of before. So Sanctuary Crystals. Box of postcards. One of them was a Gemini postcard. One of them was a Capricorn. And me and Linda worked there for a long time. And she's a Gemini, and I'm a Capricorn. No other zodiac sign is in that whole box. One interpretation of synchronicity that I got on Wikipedia. A woman was in going to her morning coffee shop. And as she's waiting in line to get her coffee, she calls a friend of hers up on the phone, who's and they're talking about something, and her friend was very short with her. And so just to not cause any waves, she cut the conversation short and got her coffee and sat down at the booth where she usually sits. And at that booth, there was always in front of her on an end cap of an aisle, there was always these knickknacks and stuff on there that the store was selling, the coffee house was selling, and they changed it. And now they had displays of tea towels on this end cap of the store. And the one end cap showed a cute little cartoon of a monster. And it said, high blood sugar, or something like that. I think high blood sugar. I think that's the example she used. She thought about her friend when she saw that. And she called her friend back up and said, have you been eating okay? And her friend apologized and said, for being short with her. And she says, no, actually, I've been so busy. I've been skipping breakfast and lots of times lunch. And I guess that would cause either low blood sugar or high blood sugar. I don't really know which it is. But anyway, that's what this message on this towel was. And it gave her that idea about her friend. And she said that was synchronicity because the towel made her think of her friend. So she saw there was a new display on the end cap of that display sign that displayed on the end of the aisle. And she interpreted it to be something useful to her friend being in a bad mood and cutting her short in her conversation. She interpreted it and became something useful. So it was interpreted, a randomness interpreted to be something useful in some way that pertains to your question is what that is. And that's what we're doing. So randomness has a real power to it. It allows us to find new ideas, find answers to things we're looking at or that are on our mind. There's a lot of randomness going on around us, a lot of coincidental things going on. And when they happen, we call our attention to it. We say, what's that mean? How come was the two postcards of the zodiac signs of me and Linda? A tea towel has a message on it that something I could fit to. I think synchronicity can be explained just like tarot cards can be explained now. If they're randomly placed into our, we interpret them, whether they came into our life coincidentally or randomly placed in a card reading, and we come up with ideas we didn't see before. So, hope you like this. Tomorrow's our next Zoom meeting, November 22nd. Link below, tarotmaps.com. All are welcome. 12 o'clock Chicago time. And I hope I see you there. Keep throwing cards. We'll talk soon.